Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Monday, July 11th, 2022 Roanoke County School Board work session to order. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate everybody being able to attend this morning and get together on fairly short notice. We finally got all the numbers in and wanted to get a budget over to the Board of Supervisors for their approval. So with that, we'll go to information 2.01, budget work session. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I don't know if Mr. Nicely, Dr. Nicely wanted to, there he goes. Did you want to make a couple of comments before I started, or do you want me to just dive in?
Is it Monday? David's fault.
Well, I will make a comment, and that is that, thank you, first of all, for agreeing to convene and work on this. I think we've got some good news to present. We've got options. The way Ms. Peterson's going to present those options is based on sort of our recommendation we'd like for you to consider, but she'll also have sort of option B and option C if you want to entertain some different things, especially related to compensation. So with that, we'll let you take it away.
All right. So we'll do a quick overview of the state revenues to remind you how much money we're going to get from them as in our revised budget. I'll look at how much the county has increased the revenue sharing agreement, the priority lists, then our recommendations. As Dr. Nicely said, we do have one recommendation and then options, so these recommendations may change depending upon school board discussion. And then the remaining timeline. So just to remind you, I wanted to put these numbers back in front of you. The increase, the last column of the difference is the increase in the final budget and our adopted budget. So if you look, the total in the general fund will increase $1,477,583. We have a little dip in the technology replacement fund of $146,129, an additional grant just that comes through the calculator tool from the state, $5,870, and then the additional capital projects funds of $4,307,078. So in total, the state revenue will go up $5.6 million. For the county revenues, this is only the third piece of the calculation in the revenue sharing agreement calculator tool that we use. Really, because this is what changed. The county, when they originally estimated, they left out the grocery tax. However, when the governor adopted, he left in the budget the fact that localities would still get their portion of the grocery tax. And so they increased their property and tax revenue line item by almost $5.3 million. When run through the revenue sharing agreement, it's going to give us another $985,728.
So we get about 20%. 21, 22, whatever.
Yeah, it went up a little bit. So then we wanted to go back into our priority lists by fund. And as Dr. Nicely did say, this is going to be our recommended option. However, there are two other options listed later in the presentation. You can see the state revenue and the county revenue will give us together an additional $2,463,311. We are recommending to increase compensation by 1% to take us from a 6% raise to a full 7% raise for all employees. That'd be about $1.1 million. And then pretty much everything else that we presented last time, I've got them in decreasing dollar order. So fully funding the CMP of $580,143. The athletic field mowing of $192,750. The additional SROs for $180,000. An increase in the technology fund transfer because the state aid went down that goes directly into that fund of $146,129. Reclassifying our REAP and PEEP IAs to ABA coaches of $141,700. The assistant supervisor of maintenance for 67.6. And then the final number is a payroll lapse. If you will recall, when we adopted the budget to begin with, we had reduced the expenditures by $750,000 for payroll lapse, and this will just offset that reduction, the $45,989. And then the additional increase in bus driver rates for activity trips, we do believe is absorbable, so that is not listed as a number in here. On the next,
So, one question on the, the state was giving grants out, and you can also apply for these, and also there was about, I remember, it's about $2 million, I didn't bring my list, but about $2 million for SROs.
the county has to look into that, and I think that Dr. Nyson and I met with them, and they were still looking at that as an option.
They are planning on, through the police department, submit a grant through the DCJS to add, they can't use it to supplant what they currently have, but to add additional, and they're looking at doing part-time positions, which is really similar to what the sheriff's office model, come up with to try to be able to staff these things, given how hard it is to find full-time people right now. But I think there's a presentation tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors meeting where they're going to submit that grant to the police department.
Okay, do we know how much?
I think they're hoping to be able to fund up to, was it 8 additional officers, I think, what I saw.
8. And what about the, it was like $4 million for buildings? You can apply for the grants for buildings?
So there were 2 grants, and one of them is included in this presentation.
It is, okay.
That's the one where we know how much they're going to give us. There was
Yeah.
a second one that's a more competitive thing.
More variable.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've not had any correspondence from VDOE on how to apply for the second one yet.
One thing we probably should have said up front, and I apologize, is, where you see this additional 1% being added in. Recall at our previous work sessions, that was not something that was going to necessarily be doable because we were going to have to put in about $1 million to offset what we thought was a fixed bonus amount that was included in the state budget. And she'll go over this, but Ms. Peterson has inquired with the VDOE. They say we've got a lot of flexibility on how we use those bonus funds. So that's why you see this presented a little differently than what you saw in the previous work sessions. I should have said that up front, but anyway, she'll be circling back around to that and also, other options that we have on that front.
One quick note to bounce off what Mike said and the fields. So the fields are gonna be divvied up equally between each high school or high school and middle schools?
I think it's high school and middle school, and it's based on the actual field. So I think what we're trying to do is keep the athletic directors, the schools in the sort of the driver's seat with that, based on what they actually need, who they prefer to get to cut their, a lot of cases, coaches will do this, or a coach's father or somebody, and they're currently, taking care of that in-house. And so this is an effort to try to offset some of their costs and actually compensate for some of those folks.
Let's drill down just a little bit so we all understand right here. So when you say by fields, it's not by schools. That's what I think the misconception is by some board members and myself, is that we're not breaking this down by schools. So the number of fields you have will increase the amount of this funding that goes to your school.
I guess it could, because we are looking at it by field, right?
So if you don't have any fields, you're not gonna get much of this money.
It's actually, because it's actually designed to offset the actual cost of mowing the field. That
Right.
makes sense.
And so if you don't have fields, you're not gonna
Right.
get funds.
Well, you don't need to mow fields if you don't have fields.
Oh, yeah, but that's public funds that are going in different directions that aren't coming to certain areas. So, it's an inequitable situation. So anyway, it's just good to know this stuff when people say, well, gosh, Tim, you're always asking for this and that. Well, we don't get this and that, so, and it happens at other areas. So anyway, we just don't have those, we don't have numbers of fields, right? So again, it's another opportunity for me to express that, public funds aren't coming venting away. And it's not a huge amount, but it is, funds again. So, but secondly, on the SRO piece, hopefully we pull that 180 out. As we just heard, the county's getting, after they give us our piece, over $4 million, correct? So we should be getting that 180,000 back as we requested, right? So, and I think some of us are going to the meeting tomorrow to hear some of the presentation and so forth. I may even speak, I've thought about that. But I want to make sure that they understand this isn't a, well, we'll do it, let's meet again 3 or 4 months and let's talk about it, okay? No, let's talk about it now. We need the $180,000, we need the SROs, we've got a plan in place, transfer the money over, let's get it done. Let's not wait, let's not dilly-dally, let's not fudge around. Brent and the sheriff have given us a path forward. If we get the other, that's awesome. We can fund, and we can have one in every school. But let's get the 180,000. Don't give us a song and dance. Let's just get it done. So,
And just for clarification of the group for public, information as well. So we've made that request formally and really asked, look, we don't even need to be the flow-through for those funds. I mean, if the county would work directly with the sheriff's office to reimburse those amounts. And we've made it very clear, this is a budget number, so of course it's just, whatever their actual expenses are. So because the response was, well, let's wait and see how it actually plays out and so forth. And just from our standpoint, just for clarity of the group, we've made it clear that, yes, absolutely, it's just based on what the actual expenses are. It's not a matter of just, blanket amount. So we've tried to direct things in that way, but that's the response we've gotten so far is, let's see what the grant's gonna do, and let's see what the actual expenses are.
well, and that's typical. We're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see.
And
Let's wait and do.
one thing, just to clarify that point that Tim's talking about, is yes, we want that money back, but that's not gonna hold us up. We're gonna go ahead and expense that money if we have to, and say, well, in retrospect, give it back to us later. But we're not slowing down with what we're
moving
doing,
ahead.
just to
Right.
clarify that.
But it's not something we should fund out of education.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
All right, so moving on, one of the reasons why we definitely want to give another percent is to strategically make a little bit of headway. We're not going to make a lot of headway, but try and make a little bit of headway with our teacher scale. I went through and have listed out, so you've got 3 columns up here. They're all listed from the school division who their step in the first block, it's step 1, and it's listed smallest to largest. And so in the pink shading is where we are right now with a 6% raise. So you can see on the first step, we are lower than Bedford, but if we give a 1% raise, we will jump above Bedford. At the midpoint, we'll do the same thing with Botetourt. We're below Botetourt now, and we'll jump ahead of Botetourt. And then on the last step, same thing, we'll jump above Botetourt.
Susan, to clarify, we are bumping up the starting pay?
We're bumping the whole scale by 1%.
Okay,
Just like what we did with the 6%, we're just doing the same thing.
okay,
Which would include people on all ends of the scale.
right.
And to
Yeah.
clarify, this will, when it's approved, we'll start it out with this year's.
The intent would be for it to start August 1st, which would be the full contract for anyone on a 10-month contract, which would be all of our teachers. Anyone who is on a 12-month contract would be short 1 month. We do not recommend retroacting that back to July for 1 month of pay. It would be very immaterial for the employee itself, and the amount of work to report that to VRS is astronomical.
I just think it's important that we're adjusting that scale. It keeps us competitive.
It's really nice. I mean, thank y'all. This is a job well done to get us, we're more competitive. And I hope people hear this. This is a big deal. You hear all the sound bites coming from we're going here or we're going there. But I tell people, And pay is important, obviously. That should be it's been our primary focus since we've been on the board. But, you know, we are competitive, and, you know, the work climate survey that we sent out, you know, was extremely positive. And so, you know, Roanoke County is open and in good shape, and it's a great place to work.
What percentage of our employees would benefit more from a bonus than a 1% raise?
Clearly, most of those on the lower end of the scale would have more cash in their pocket the higher of a bonus we gave, as opposed to giving them a 1% on what they earn.
It'd be one time, of course, though, versus recurring, but.
Right. With VRS and everything, it would
helps
definitely
them
pay
much
off.
more in retirement.
And I've got the bonus coming up next,
Okay.
or after the next slide. So then in the grant fund, we have a couple of true-ups. The VPI, we estimated 280 students, and that came in at 256 students. So we brought that number down a little bit. The 5,870 that I mentioned was in the calculator tool for our mentor teacher grant went up a little bit. Subsequent to adopting the original budget, I guess Mr. Sir has been in touch with Carillion, and they are looking at starting a new rad tech program at BCAT. The equipment that the technicians would need to use to learn this new trade is quite costly, and so he is going to apply for equipment using a Claude Moore Charitable Foundation grant. So we're estimating that to be about $40,000 in total equipment. And then with our federal grants, for Titles 1 through 4, and then the Carl Perkins, we're just truing this up to the applications that have been approved and submitted for each of these grants. We also, in the final item on here is $100,564 that we are receiving from the CARES Act Healthcare Provider Relief Program. We have applied for this. This is kind of a recurring program for our Medicaid participation. Prior amounts that we've gotten were like $6,000 and like $10,000, so they were very small. With this $100,000, we were quite surprised and shocked to have quite a large amount. So we wanted to go ahead and build this into the budget right now. What we can do with this are those employees that your nurses, your therapists, we can carve those out of the ARPA bonus and pay their bonus through these funds, in addition to using them for other relatable supplies. So this will help with this bonus. The ARPA bonus, this is up maybe 49,000-ish from what I shared at our last meeting. We got final numbers from VDOE. They increased the SOQ number of positions, and so 1.4 million is what they will end up providing. They also shared additional information that we can take this bonus and give it to all employees. They're only going to fund us based on SOQ positions for $1,000. So we can reduce that $1,000. So our thought is to get as close to the 1.4 million that they would provide, we could give a $575 bonus, which would net out for the employee $371.45, cash in bank for them. So, but our thought is, we're using, to estimate this, 2,264 positions. Now, some of these are going to be open positions. So the plan would be, on December 1st, every person who is filling a position, as opposed to number of positions, we take this number, the 1.4 million, we carve out the number of bodies that can be funded through that provider relief money on the 100,000, and we just do math to come up with the largest bonus we can give everyone to spend all this money. And then we take that dollar amount and we give that same dollar amount from the other grant to give as much of a bonus. So in my estimation, a $371.45 cash out to employees is the lowest they will see. I would expect them to see a little bit more than that.
So if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, we would. So I would totally, we would totally max this out.
Awesome. So in addition to the 1%. Yeah.
Correct.
Very nice.
And it also, you can also calculate that you have to take out the 35%, which will come back in normal cases when you file your taxes, you'll get a little bit more back if you're in a different tax bracket.
That is
So-
correct.
But by law, you gotta take this out. So-
Right. Any questions on this in the approach? Okay. So then, what we've presented so far is basically the recommendation we're gonna make. Dr. Nice had shared with you two other options that we could move forward with if it were the school board's desire to maybe not go with what we have recommended, but maybe go with a different option that may be desirable. The first is to split the raise and have a higher bonus. And so what you see in red are just the lines that change. An additional raise, instead of being over $1 million, would be, almost $500,000. And then we would give an $800 bonus, which would be about $516 cash out. So that would cost a little over $500,000. And then the difference would be payroll lapse, giving back to the payroll lapse a little bit. So that would be one option. So a recommended option, again, is a full percent, and then whatever falls out of the ARPA bonus per employee is what it is. The second one would be to give a little bit more funding towards the ARPA bonus, to give a little more cash in pocket right away, and give less of a raise. And then the third option really mirrors what we showed at the last meeting, and that would be to give the full amount to the bonus, coming through is the additional state and county revenue, so that employees would get a $1,000 bonus with cash out of $650, but then they would not get a raise over the 6%. And the difference would again go into lapse. So those were your other two options if y'all wanted to consider that or have
So
other
let's stay
thoughts.
the course.
I like the option that they're gonna get something, a bonus plus the extra percent, which certainly I think means a lot. And then when you get that bonus, it's December, am I correct? So it
Correct.
would be December, which would be Christmas time, and
Good
you say,
timing.
wow, I'm getting a little extra money here,
Yeah, very nice.
so.
Thank y'all.
Are those two bonuses that we see there on that screen inclusive of the other 300 and the other ARPA bonus that you were just showing us previously?
This will be in lieu of. This will be replacing, this is a different way to use that bonus money.
We can get the two pieces.
Yeah.
And our thought is, I know there's a lot of, philosophical approaches to this in terms of, even concerns about next year's budgets and economic forecasts and all that, but I don't know, in terms of what we want to recommend, go back to that slide in terms of being competitive with our neighbors, taking care of our employees, knowing that's their number one concern. And, our recommendation is just based on, we're not ever gonna try to make any momentum in terms of closing that gap with our neighbors. This doesn't do it, but just in terms of just trying to make efforts toward that, if we don't take advantage of these opportunities to do so. So that's what the recommendation is based on. I know there's different ways of looking at it, but that's why we've presented it this way.
I think it's well done myself. I'm happy with it.
So then moving on, in our capital projects fund, the 4.3 million, Mr. Ray, is the grant program entitlement that we know we're gonna get. And then the minor capital is the funding the remaining portion. So that'll get us, this is the last, this 580,143 is our very last add back from everything we took away in 2020 during COVID when we really took scissors to the budget. And so it's really nice to be able to get that final piece back into our budget. So I went back and I did take a look at our CIP and I revised it, so that's what's shown on the next screen. So I'll start with the funding revenue. You have the additional 4.3 million showing as grant revenue, and then that's in the top red box. And then the 1 million fully funded CMP is presented here, so that additional $500,000 that we put into it is showing. So we restructured to bring Burton Center as our first school on the list. And I did not change when we were gonna get the bonding money, just because we don't have a final agreement with the county. I didn't want to make any assumptions. I wanted to just go with what we know right now. And so I'm still doing the 17-17 off, 17-17 off, playing through here. I just moved BCAT up first and added the additional 4.3 million to BCAT.
And you moved BCAT up first.
I
Why?
should, because that was the direction I was given at the last meeting by the
Okay.
majority of the school
Did
board.
we vote on that?
Oh, we asked her
I
to just
saw
put it
more-
together and see what it would look like.
But we understand that all three schools are gonna get done at the same time, right? Even though we put that in the first position, right?
I don't know that all three will get done at the same time based on what we're looking at, or preliminary type budgets, possibly Burton and one of the elementary schools.
Well, I know that, Mike has given me his, blessings. I think Cheryl's mentioned the same. Brent has mentioned the same. So, you know, and again, as much as I'd like to say, because I know Cundiff was first, I think we stick to what we've proposed all along. Cove was part of that, and Cove, Cundiff, and Burton is what we've asked for from the beginning. I don't think we changed that plan. So, I know I'm always negative Nelly, but I just think we stay the course. I just want to make sure, I didn't hear us, we've always voted to change the CIP, right? So we've always had it in a work session or a construction meeting or whatever to change it. I never heard us officially do that, but I don't have a problem as long as we stay the course. Otherwise, I think we go back to the original list, the way it was.
Would be the debt service, what would we have? Do you have an estimate of what it would be to move forward with all projects? Not even an idea.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Greenway, this has not been approved. This is being presented for your approval, like we have always done in the past.
And I'm okay with it as long as we continue the three need to be done approach. Otherwise, I'm not okay with it. Just letting you know. I mean, I'm only one, but
Well, let's talk about that. How do we do, you being the finance person, how do we navigate through that to work through these, all three projects? I mean, how would you present this so we could move it, get it off, move it forward? What's the procedure that we would need to do?
I think would it not require the county raising their, what they borrow and so forth? I mean, I
Right.
don't mean to sound,
Well, debt service. yeah.
right, that's what we require.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I mean, what's the plan? If we're gonna move forward, what's the plan? If we're saying, okay, let's move forward with all these. We've got it number one for, VCAT, but how do we move forward debt service wise? And that's what I was just trying, and maybe that's a question for tomorrow.
Well,
That's
sure,
what I was
sure,
thinking.
it absolutely is, but here's the deal, it's what I've said all along, right? We gave them the proposal, we said we want these three schools done, and in the dark of night, and we had asked for, 3 or 4 years ago, for them to change that 10-10-10 from 2004. We asked them to change that to 15-15-15, or give us something better than 10-10-10. They saw it to get us to 12-12-12, but then in the dark of the night, all of a sudden, they gave us 17-17-17. Thank you. But that comes with the caveat, now we gotta do BCAT too. We knew this, I mean, this is just, it's played out exactly the way, I felt it would. So, unless they add a little bit of debt to that structure that they've gotten, and they did it in 2009, they had 100 million, got some schools done. But now, I'm not gonna go into all of it, but, now they can't do it. So they'll give us whatever it is, 40 or 50, go from 12, 12, 12 to 17, 17, 17, right? And then they're gonna ask us to take care of it. Well, obviously, $80 million, that pushes us down 5 or 6 years down the road. I mean, this is no rocket science in my mind. But I guess it's almost an insult to me. I just almost feel like it's like, come on, guys. I mean,
Well, that's what my question was, how do we get to where we, is it a place to get there?
let's just be truthful.
Yeah.
That's all.
Just as we revised the CIP back before and moved William Byrd up to the front based on superintendent's recommendations a few years ago, I wouldn't be opposed to having him revisit those 3 schools and see what staff recommendation may be as far as truly which one or which 2 may be the most important at this point. Because when I personally look at them, I know Gundiff and Glen Cove being the only 2 open concept classrooms is a problem, but not nearly as much of a problem or as our BCAT, as our CTE center is currently. Therefore, I personally think of all 3 facilities, our CTE center is so far behind comparable jurisdiction CTE centers, whereas Glen Cove and Gundiff, not ideal situations. The learning that's going on there, the scores that are coming out of there are still pretty good.
I think if I recall the discussions, kind of Mr. Greenway's point, I think, recall that before we were asked to look at that 3 years ago, and, BCAT wasn't even on the list.
Yeah, that's right.
Believe it or not, it wasn't even on the CIP, and you can get into all the reasons for that. I think we put it, where we did. I think, all along, I think our hope and desire has been, to your point, that, some alternative ways to fund that project could be done outside the scope
That's
of
right.
the, traditional plan. It doesn't seem to be materializing, which kind of puts us back to this tough spot.
Let's just be truthful. It's Lucy and the football. Come on up here, kick that football. Wait a minute, we're gonna pull it back. Come on, let's be honest. Has your position changed that all 3 of those schools need to be done just like you've requested and asked as a part of the board to get them done? Mr. Ray was a chairman when we sent that proposal. Look, I have fought tooth and nail to get CTE on that CIP. You know that. I've been a bulldog to get that done. When we were doing these studies that told us what we already knew and all that stuff. But, let's just be honest. Just tell us, look, they need to come up with a little bit more money. Let's get these 3 done, just like we've always said, like we've always pushed for, and get it done. Let's not change let's not negotiate against ourselves, for crying out loud.
We've pushed for that in the past when we thought a CTE center was gonna be in the 50 to 60 million range, not the 75 to 80 million range, and the high schools were gonna be in a
Well, then we.
15 to 17 million dollar range and not $20 million. If
Okay.
money were growing on a tree and it were endless, it would make sense to do all 3 at the same time. Would I like to do all 3 at the same time? Absolutely.
If we had done it when we said 3 years ago, if we had started this project like 5 years ago when we started talking about it, when no board had put a CTE on the CIP, if we had done it then, we wouldn't be looking at $80 million, right? We'd be looking at 50 or 60, okay? So this isn't on us. We've been asking, and I'm proud of this board for getting CTE on there, right? Because it's a dump, it needs to be fixed, and we need to do it. I'm not suggesting we stop pushing, that's got to be done. But, these other 2 schools need to be done too. And oh, by the way, if we push them out, guess what else happens to
Northside
how's
Middle.
Northside Middle? What's it look like? It's a beauty, isn't it?
Well,
And
as
then
Ms.
Glenver
Peters-
Elementary, let's go there.
As
How's
Ms.
that?
Peterson just mentioned, I mean, this is without any additional funding that the Board of Supervisors appear very ready to get to us. And while it shows now Cundiff and Glen Cove 2030 or 2033 or whatever it may be, I mean, more realistically, I think that's 2026. Or one of them, maybe even before that.
Yeah, we were gonna start BCAT in 2022 too, but you see where that's at. I don't care. You do whatever y'all want to. Just be honest. Tell
Well,
people.
why shouldn't we ask for it? I guess is the question. I mean, to his point, why are we not shooting for the moon? Why would we not ask for it?
We have been asking for it.
We have, yeah.
We have.
Well, I know, but I mean.
See what
What
happens.
happens when we don't get it?
Well,
Right.
obviously, I
I'm
mean,
fine with asking for it, but I truly don't expect to get it.
well, it's okay to ask for it, is all I'm saying. I mean, he's got a valid point. I'm not trying to have Glen Cove put off to 2033. I mean, I'm not gonna be nasty about it, but I don't see a problem with saying, hey, this is our staff recommendation, this is our recommendation. That's our job to fight for it. It's our job for our constituents to let them know that, hey, we understand it needs to be done. We're doing everything to get it done. By not asking for it and putting it off and accepting the fact that it's gonna be 31 or 33 possibly, I'm not okay with that.
No, I'm not okay with that either, but I don't think this is an accurate picture of what would truly take place if that funding comes to fruition.
Well, then why print this if it's not accurate? Let's tear it up. 2030 is when we would start. I mean, come on. That's all I'm saying.
That's,
I mean, did they put that much pressure on you? I don't get it.
I guess
don't
that's
get it.
where I started this conversation about the plan. Where, Brent was saying, what is the plan to get there for these? If we can, if there is a plan, let's at least ask. And if it doesn't work, it won't be this lack of us asking and trying to get it. And
And
I think
I'm
that's
good with
where
that.
and I think that's
I'm
what
good with
we.
that. Put BCAT back at 3 or 4 or wherever it should be. I'm just saying, the only way we get this done is for them to realize we're doing all 3 schools at one time. Otherwise, they are gonna push us back. And does it require another 40 or 50 million? Maybe, probably. Can the debt load handle that, and we still be physically conservative? And can we be physically responsible?
That's what I was asking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did it in 2009. Inflate those numbers to today's, we can't do it now. And we were, as I understand it, probably, and you may remember, I don't know. So I'm speaking off the cuff, but we were probably indebted in similar fashion then. But now we can't do it.
Yeah,
So
it was. It was about the same, and that's
Right.
when we did the Blue Ribbon and presented that, and it was over $100 million.
yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, it is, I mean, it's their decision as to how much money they're gonna give us. But also, at the end of the day, it's up to us to
Yeah, we
pitch
don't-
for what we need, for what we want, for what's best for the people that we serve. And by not asking for it, or, I mean, it's not like we're demanding it, but we're just saying, hey, look, this needs to be done. I mean, look at these schools, look at this open concept that we've been dealing with for a while now.
50 years.
I mean, it's not nasty to ask for it. I don't feel like it's disrespectful. At the end of the day, it is up to them, but also, I've got an obligation to the people that put me in this office to say, hey, this school, look at it. We need to do something with it.
So would that ask be to maybe look at the 21-21 plan versus 17, or something apart from that?
Oh, you're asking to raise the 20?
Yeah, but what would the
do.
specific ask be, I guess, would be the question.
I honestly don't care what we ask for as long as we get it. So, and again, I get that I'm a little bit different here because, if I get voted out, I don't care. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think we do what's right. We didn't get voted to be Board of Supervisors, as Brent said. We got voted in to be school board members. And so I'm gonna do what I think's best for the schools. And as long as I'm not being physically irresponsible, this is what we've asked for, we've fought for 3 years, and we're just gonna lay down the gauntlet. Well, we didn't get it, let's move on. No, that's not me. Y'all know that. And I know y'all get tired of hearing me talk about it. And That's why you don't want me to be chairman or vice chair, because I will. And so, it's just the way it is. But let's be truthful, let's not hide behind the numbers. I can't even believe you brought me this with 2030 starting Cundiff.
I didn't bring you that. Ms. Peterson did.
Well, and it's not your fault, because we asked, obviously it was asked to be done. But
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So, in terms of logistics, is it possible to build 3 schools at once? Is that a hard ask? Just
Are you
asking.
asking in terms of like the construction industry?
Yeah, I mean,
or-
I see what's happened over at Byrd, and it's a lot of things in the motion at once, and so is that even something that's possible?
absolutely, it's possible. Is it gonna be, are we gonna have to deal with the constraints of the economy? Sure.
Supply chain.
Sure. But if we don't start, we're not going to finish. So, to say, well, let's see what's happening in 2030, I can't even believe, I mean, and I'm sorry, I know I get over, and I don't know why I get so into this stuff, but I can't even believe I'm looking at 2030 on this paper.
And I take what that was not meant, my comment was not meant as a slight to Ms. Peterson. When we met as a board last time and discussed in a work session, we said, let's see what it looks like moving Burton up here on the CIP to number 1.
And it also, from 4 of us, whether it's meant or not meant, and 4 of us said, as long as we do all 3 schools.
And I'm fine for asking for that.
I think we keep, I
Just
think
move.
we move forward and go to the meeting tomorrow, see what we're looking at. They obviously know that we want all 3. I mean, you'd have to be silly not to understand that. So we'll go from there, and I know you don't like
No,
that,
I'm
Tim,
just-
but
I-
we,
well,
we,
no, I
let-
agree.
let's, you've said everything that you need to say, and you can speak tomorrow too. But at the end of the day, we do need all 3 schools built. It's just, how are we gonna get there? How are we gonna get there?
Well, that's for them to figure out.
Right.
I mean, it's not, that's
Well, it's
not,
for us
that's,
to figure out which one is most important.
right, but what I'm saying is why not ask for it? Like, I don't see a point into not saying, hey, we need to get this done. It's not up to me to figure out debt service and the other things that are their responsibility, but at the end of the day, it's up to us to,
And at one
If we
point, we
want to go
took,
back and put BCAT 3rd on the list and put that back to 2026, with the momentum that we have right now with the new CTE center, I think is extremely irresponsible by us as board members and in what's best for the community.
I just wish I could keep up with what's important to you. One year, it's, let's get all 3 done, we need to do that.
I'd like to do that.
The next year, it's, we gotta do this school first, and the other 2 can wait till 2030. And then what's next year bring? What's next year bring? What do we do next year? When they, because they're gonna continue to delay it as long as we don't even know what we want.
It's wonderful
So-
that you've got Bird moved up from wherever it was to 1st, and now
When it was
somebody else
never,
wants to
when it
move
was,
something up.
when it was
to
never,
first.
you don't, do you even know the history on that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Okay, so moved up
We asked
was
the
never
superintendent.
in sight. Do what?
We could ask the superintendent again to revisit the CIP and make a recommendation on what he thinks is best.
That's fine. If it's changed, let us know.
We can do that.
It puts you in a tough spot, I get it. We ought to be big boys and big girls up here and just say it. Let's be truthful. I mean, let's just do it. I mean, look, I wear my emotions on my sleeves, I get it, and I'm gonna tell you what I think. And and like Cheryl said, I've already told you everything you need to hear. It's the truth, it's not lies, okay? And if it is, tell me. I'm willing to listen to what I said is untruthful. I've told you exactly how this is gonna go from the Board of Supervisors to us. It's playing out, and yet we still, gosh, Tim, let's ask them again. I mean, whatever. I'm good with whatever. I'm just gonna fight tooth and nail to have Cundiff and Cove done, because it shouldn't be left like that with 4 or 5 open classrooms at a time in a pod. How that's conducive to learning and why we don't open up the rest of the elementary schools in the county is beyond me. Open them up. If it was a great concept, why is it the only two the state superintendent told us was left in Virginia that he knew of? We ought to open them all up.
It was a great concept back in the 70s.
72, it was
That's
great.
when it was a great concept.
Yeah.
I guess, and I think we move, with it, but I just feel like that, we talk about debt service, we got to share in that debt service, right?
We sure do.
And so you've got numbers to show us what, if we went to a 21, whatever, if we got that and was able to, we're moving forward on all projects, what would that be for us? I guess that would be the question at some point. But I guess we move forward and get it started and say, this is where we are, this is what we want to do. What does it take to get there on your side? Tell us how to get there, whatever it is.
Can I?
I think it's $100,000 in debt service, isn't it, for every additional,
I
if I
think-
remember
Yeah,
correctly?
it's roughly.
So it'd be 400,000 to go to 21.
I don't think it's exactly, but that could be. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
remember the
Close, I
numbers.
thought.
Yeah, I just was want to hear it from her, but you're right.
My memory
And,
serves me.
and that's,
but-
that's something that you build into your budget.
Right.
That's what it is. And they build it into theirs.
But here's the thing on the 21, it's $8 million, because we only get 2 years. That's what we lose sight of. They have to raise the debt on their side. If they give us 21, they would be happy to do that probably.
Yeah.
If we're still willing to put on the backs of our budget, BCAT. I mean, 8 million is not gonna build BCAT. That's my problem.
Right.
It's just not. So, but as a business, if you're a businessman, you see the value. I'm gonna get way off task, but what jobs have we added for economic development and revenue to bring to this county? Our schools are an economic revenue generator because we have great schools. How can anyone not want to fund BCAT because of what value it'll bring to us on the business sector? Maybe the possibility of bringing someone with jobs. When's the last time we can remember jobs were added to Roanoke County in a big way? 150, 200 high-paying jobs. When? I mean, we can get, and these are nice, and I'm not knocking this. We can get the Chili's and the Chick-fil-A's and the Burger Kings and those things. But we need a win. And we need a distribution center.
Yep.
So all I'm saying is, why would you not fund BCAT as the Board of Supervisors? Why would you not do that? I don't get it. Anyway, I'm done. Y'all do whatever you want.
Let's see what happens at the meeting tomorrow.
Yep, sounds good.
I looked at the presentation. Did you look at it yet?
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm.
I looked at the presentation. It looks pretty good.
So typically, the CIP is part of the budget adoption process, so Ms. Peterson will just need to know, we either keep it as is, which was behind the two elementaries, or, we go in this direction, so we're just gonna need some consensus here.
We're just going to put you in the hot seat.
I see that.
We're always able to revise it, so do we have by chance the old CIP available to review, the current CIP?
I mean, I can pull up the PowerPoint, if that's,
If you could
I
do
mean,
that
it's not
so
gonna
we
be
can
much-
see where it is.
well, the only problem is I will have to put the 4.3 million in and the extra CMP.
Yeah, just.
So I don't
when
have
you
it
look at it, just
right
know
now.
that this includes that $4.3 million that we just got from the state for capital, which we're gonna use for land acquisition. And the old one, of course, does not, but other than that, it's.
I'll cut you for a minute. Go ahead.
Thanks.
You know what? I'm on the wrong board. That's the problem. I'm on the wrong board. I'm getting this. I'm getting it.
Tim, didn't you need another vacation?
I know it.
Didn't you
I
just
know
get
it.
back?
This is bad when you come off vacation and act like this.
Those grandkids must have worn you down.
They did. They did. Holy cow.
ahead, Chuck.
You're covered.
What do you do for the live feed there, Chuck? Do you like hum some, like Jeopardy music or?
Everybody wave to
Chuck-
camera 4 in the
Chuck's-
back right there.
Chuck's gotta sing. Please, Chuck, take it away.
It's Dave's over-the-shoulder cam right behind. Right there.
We're off camera, right, still? We're on mic,
Just the one behind.
just, okay.
Little audio.
It's kind of small, so I apologize. But this is the existing one.
So that would have BCAT funded when? 2030?
2033.
2033.
And the difference, I'll show you. Oh, this looks really horrible. But this number and this number would go up to 1 million. And then we put the 4.3 million here and then 4.3 million here for Burton Center.
And let me ask you this, as bad as that sounds, it sounds to me for those two elementary schools too. I mean, that's, I can't believe we would be happy with saying we couldn't do BCAT until 2033. How could we be happy that we would do those elementary schools in 2030 or 2033, whatever it is? That's what it would be, isn't it? 20, same thing, just flip the numbers. The elementaries would be 2033, right?
Can you explain the next steps on the budget adoption process and to what we would, if we move forward with this as proposed, or whether we, if
Yeah,
we
let me get
decide to
back
make
my
a change?
PowerPoint.
For Brent and Mike, could you explain that to Brent and Mike? They just put up, switched the numbers. We'd be able to fully fund BCAT in 2033. Would you be happy with that?
2033?
Yeah.
I won't be sitting here in
We wouldn't be happy,
2033.
right?
Yeah, I'm not
Why
gonna
would
be.
we be happy with the elementary schools being 2033?
Again, these revised numbers are not what I believe is gonna be the actual numbers once the county looks at what they're willing to do.
Well, and
Trust me.
I've built this with the information that I have now and the information that the county has provided us, that I know the funding is laid out for the future that we can access. At the point in which time the county and the school board come to a more solidified consensus on the funding, we will revise this and show the additional debt service and put, if Burton Center is going to be completed in 2024 or 2023, we will show all the debt and the correct funding. We just don't have any answers at this point in time, and so this is built with the information that we have at this point in time. So if you would provide me direction on whether you want me to go back to the other CIP or stick with this one, I would like to know which direction you would like me to go.
I'm fully transparent and honest, so I've already told you. Let
Ms.
them-
Fashani, which
let them
direction
decide.
would you like to go?
Well, do I have protection going out to the parking lot from somebody, from Tim?
You're parked right close to.
Yeah, I am.
You're gonna bang your
Is
doors.
there another vacation I can send you on? You know what? I'd love to do all three at once. I can't imagine that wish list is going to happen. In the interests of serving the entire county, I would like to see BCAT at number one. And I don't want to see Cundiff or Glen Cove that far behind, but to Susan's discussion, we don't have all the information, and hopefully it'll be funded appropriately, and we can move forward in a faster direction. And that would be my hope.
Mr. Ray?
Well, along that line, I would still like to know when will we move up these other two schools? I mean, if we're not, they're out in impossible land if we don't move them up. I mean, I think that we certainly, if we're gonna go with the direction of that, with BCAT was number one, we certainly got to have these others that are in a time frame and go for all three. I mean, we're not, I know we gotta approve something, but I don't like the idea of having them being out as far as they are, but I like to move forward on all three. I mean, I think that if we don't go for that, I don't know how you add it, if you change it and say we're gonna start all of them in 2024, 2023, whatever. All three of them. I mean, if you change that, but, I just think
I think all five of us would agree, we'd like to get all three done as quickly as possible. And we can ask for those fundings. If you had to pick one of the two CIPs to present with this budget, would you present this revised CIP or the previous CIP?
Well, I would like to see them all, maybe revise this CIP to make sure that we have something more in a realistic stage and be able to have these projects at a reasonable time rather than being so far out. I don't know.
Well, I can't do that with the information that we have. If I revise this at all, your final funding is 2033, period. So for me to put all three schools together, you're not going to do any school until 2033. So my recommendation would be for you to choose the direction, the list of the schools, which list you want them in, BCAT first, or revert to the prior listing. And then when we get additional information from the county on how we're going to truly fund this, because they are having talks and we are having talks with them, there is no final thing that I can change this to make it look any better, right? The funding up top does not change right now.
I think it could be done, it would remain as a hypothetical.
Correct.
Is that
Well,
what you're saying? I mean,
yeah, but you're wanting now to say this is the way it's gonna go.
That's right, yeah.
based on,
that's what
yeah,
they're
based on
saying,
the
and
funding
trust me.
they've given us.
And that's
Based on the funding
That's
that
what David's
we
saying is,
know.
trust me. So you gotta either trust him that we're gonna get this done, or do it now. I'm gonna give y'all one last thing you're gonna love. This is a good one. And I know he watches every one of these. Butzer told us, as a parting shot, he said, let's see if y'all can get those three schools done. He said, it won't happen now that I'm gone.
Oh, he's not on the board anymore.
That's right. Absolutely. I told you it was a good one. We didn't agree on much.
Mr. Ray?
Well, I mean, do we have a choice? I mean, as far as what we can do. If we go back, then we're putting BCAT behind everything too. I guess the momentum that is going forward tomorrow, y'all gonna, I won't be able to be there, by the way, but tomorrow, y'all will be listening of what's presented, and we have that wheels in motion. I mean, that has been discussed, and why we didn't maybe think of this sooner and saying, why didn't we say, okay, yeah, we want to move forward from the beginning, but we want to try to do
If we did, we'd
what
be,
we
as
can.
Ms. Peterson said, dealing with hypotheticals. And
Yeah, I know.
we know better
but-
than to do that. So it's either we accept this revised CIP or we put the old one back in.
So, well, I think, I don't know, do we have a choice? I mean, is there a choice?
Absolutely, we have a choice.
Well, I mean, is there a choice that we go back to the old one when we've got land acquisition we've got things that are moving forward with this.
And can I just add something?
Yes, ma'am.
So, in terms of, I know nobody likes to speak in hypotheticals, but years ago, we didn't know the value when Butzer was on or whoever else was on the board, these CTE centers bring to the economy, the local economies. And there's no doubt that COVID sped up the process of everything. I mean, so we're looking at a situation right now where Roanoke needs this. There's other centers all throughout the state that are popping up, and we're behind. So it's either we do this now or we don't do it. And that's how I feel. We've got the momentum, we've got the support from the community, we've got the support from the Board of Supervisors. Not as much support as Tim wants, but hopefully we'll get there. And I think there's a lot of pieces that are moving into the right direction. And I'm going to put some faith in that, Tim. I know you're a little jaded, but I'm putting some faith in it.
We've done, history's
That's-
what got me.
I guess move forward with what you've presented here so we can move forward with something and then work with the others.
Mr. Hudson?
There's no need in asking me now. You got your three? No, honestly, I want to be well documented to the public as well as the Board of Supervisors. I understand money doesn't grow on trees, like you said earlier, but I also understand that we've got 2 elementary schools that are a sheer embarrassment, and we need to do something about it. And we need to do something about it before 2031 and 2033. I mean, that's just, and then looking at Northside Middle at 2036, we've got a problem, and we need to work together constructively to figure out how we can get these buildings taken care of. As far as Burton, I do feel like it's the most important thing right now. We are moving forward, and we are moving on the momentum, like you said. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with this CIP on the sheer fact that we are moving with Burton and on good faith that we think that's going to get done. But I will not stand by and allow Glen Cove and Cundiff to sit back into 2033. I'll be a bigger thorn in the side than Mr. Greenway if we don't get something moving on that in a timely fashion. Because I owe it to the people that put me in this office to look out for their children. And that open concept is way out of date in the building. It needs to be fixed, both of them. As well as some of these others on the list. I mean, I visit all these schools and, Northside Middle could definitely use some attention as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at the windows, for crying out loud. Look at some of that. I mean, there's no reason why our kids should be suffering in these I don't want to say dilapidated, but out-of-date buildings when we're thriving as a county, so.
And politics suck. When you slide stuff in like this at the last minute, you have no choice. I get it. Do we think BCAT's not important? Obviously. Fought tooth and nail to get it where it's at. So, but you don't slide things in like this at the last minute, not having told any of us.
It was discussed at the previous meeting. Was it
That
not?
we would-
Was it or was it
Not
not?
that we would bring it to this work session or we'd vote on it.
I would welcome the opportunity to go back
And
and
it was
listen to that
also,
meeting.
it was also said by no voting that the three would be done together. Am I wrong? Am I
I
wrong?
said I'd like to list
Am I
them
wrong?
up there all at the top.
Am I wrong? So, anyway, do what you will. He was
We'll go ahead and
correct.
move forward with the revised CIP as presented with this budget.
So then the next slide just shows the total fund balances that we're looking at. The first column shows our 2022 budget and the percent of budget that went to each fund. The 2023 original budget is shown in the middle box is the first column. The current revision that we are looking at is the middle column. And then the final original budget revised is showing in the third column. So you can see the amounts that we're going to add. And they agree with the priority schedules. So then the recommendation would be at the next school board meeting, approve an original budget revision. And these will be the 4 action items that I would put on the schedule for staff to go over with you. The first would be to approve the original budget revision by $7.5 million with a general fund increase of $2.463 million, a grant fund increase of $166,988, major project fund increase of $4.3 million, and a minor capital fund increase of $580,143. So then the second item will be to approve the revised pay plan, which Mr. Bradshaw's team was able to actually provide, and you have a copy of it right in front of you. We'll put that on the school board agenda. This does reflect an additional 1% scale shift, and it does reflect the increase in the bus driver substitute, extra run, and summer school rates, along with the additional car substitute driver rate. And that last one is a rate that we had been paying all along, it just wasn't formally on the pay plan. So we're just cleaning up with some of this. Then to approve the revised CIP, and then finally to approve the receipt of the 1.4 million for the state-provided ARPA funds for the bonus as of December 1. So those will be the 4 items we would ask you to vote on.
Be under consent.
They can be under consent or action, whichever you prefer.
I see.
Ms. Peterson won't be in attendance on Thursday evening, so if you have any major questions or anything, or, still things that we need to figure out, we probably need to do that today versus, Thursday would be more of a presentational kind of thing if you have it on action, or it could be on consent.
Consent's fine with me.
Yeah, I would think
As long as we don't change
We do
anything
most of the
last
stuff,
minute.
we do
Put it
everything's
on there.
consent, so. Okay.
Okay.
Did anybody want to have any discussion on either of those first 2 items?
The bonus versus the.
With the bonus as opposed to the, yeah.
No, I think the raise,
I
the
think
raise
that
hands
was
down.
bonus.
I'm okay with that.
I think
Raise.
that's good.
All right, good.
So then the final deadline, so we'll take that to be approved under consent on July 14th. And then on July 26th, we'll go to the Board of Supervisor, and they will provide the information for them to, this week, in fact, I'll send them the information today so they can advertise for a public hearing so that they can have the public hearing on July 26th. We will have them, we will present the revised budget to them, we'll ask for the public hearing, and they'll have that, and 2 things, the revised budget and the additional 1.4 bonus ARPA money, and we'll do that one separate since it is such a large grant. Then they'll adopt the ordinance for both of those. Then August 1st, the amended, as I mentioned before, the amended contracts would go into place, and so that would cover all 10-month employees, would get a full raise for the full year. 12-month employees would miss out on July, but they would sure experience the additional amount in August. And then December 15th, we would pay out the bonus ARPA based on employees who exist as of December 1st.
And you say that could be more than what you presented.
Yes, sir.
How
'Cause
much,
we'll-
what's the max, would you guess?
Whatever it falls out to be with the number of people who are here at the time.
Susan, you're so good at numbers.
Just to clarify for everybody, based on actual people versus positions.
Right,
Yeah,
so, I mean, how many positions do we have open that we?
2000,
I don't know how many we have
22?
open right now. Mr.
it
Bradshaw is not here.
Okay.
I think realistically though, I mean,
Realistically,
you know,
another
we're putting it
$100
as-
maybe?
At the
70
most, right? I
at
mean,
the
to be
most?
realistic,
Okay.
I mean, we're putting it at 575, it could be 600, it could
Taxes.
be 650, but probably not a lot more than that.
Okay. I
Big
think
thing
we-
is that 1%.
Yes.
That's the big
Are
thing.
we done? Are we
Anything
done?
else? Time wise?
See y'all.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.